there ain't no stopping us. Fly without boarding pass. Couldn't catch me, I be moving fast. Call me a shooting star. Let 'em know who you are. Flying up in a bar. Wish on a star. Time to show 'em who's in charge. Call me a shooting star. Didn't even get to cross. I said I'm moving too far. Get to glass. Looking at a shooting star. Got more than a couple of people going mad. I swear they're rooting hard. Tell them I be big in the game like she went and got them breast implants. I said I'm moving too fast. Didn't even get a glance. I'm ready to eat up track like I'm seated in a restaurant. Yeah. If you had swag like mine, you know it's best to flaunt. Yeah. We aren't hating because you aren't shining like it's neon. Rock like kings of Leon. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, then I just have to leave. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, then I just have to leave. Yeah, shoot. Yeah, shoot.
Let's try this again. My mic keeps freaking out on me. So let's see if we can get it to work this time. All right. Yeah, it's so strange. I have to like unplug it and replug it after the program starts. I do not get that. And I tested it. So Donna, there should be sound now. Don't know what the malfunction is, but it should be fixed now. All right. It's been a while since I have dealt with my commie friends over at the People's Party. So I've got a shit ton of clips. Indeed I do. And tomorrow, and I've got another video coming out later tonight. I got a mystery package, which I opened and took a peek in, and I didn't look at all the contents because I was like, no, this has got to be a video because this is probably one of the weirdest things I've gotten, with the exception of when, Libertarian Santa Tom Arnold sent me a ham. It was delicious, but he did, in fact, send me a ham. And tomorrow night, hopefully, I had thought the agenda would be out by now for the LNC meeting. I don't know what's going on, but I was going to go over the agenda and tell you guys what to expect at the upcoming LNC meeting. If the agenda, well, I'm going to do it whether the agenda is out or not. I guess I'll just guess as to things that will be on the agenda because people have given notice. Otherwise, tomorrow night we'll be going through the agenda. I'll give you my thoughts. You give me your thoughts. We can gossip a bit. We can be catty little bitches together. But let's get on to our commie friends here. Speaking of being catty little bitches, I'm going to be probably a little bit of that. But let's see what we got going on. These I extracted out like a month ago. So I don't even know what's on these clips. It's going to be as much a surprise to me as you. And oh, before we get started, the makeup look I'm doing today. Okay, I saw Raw Christy Beauty duplicating a Bailey Sarian look. So I'm going to duplicate Raw Beauty Christie duplicating Bailey Sarian with this very plain dramatic black lip with a white eyeshadow. Who the fuck knows how this is going to come out, but here we go. Anyway, let's get started.
And you referenced the role of the media and the way that the media has been treating Biden. I've never in my life, Chris, seen a level of propaganda around a Democratic president or a president in propping him up that I've seen around Biden. I mean, the effort to portray him as this kind of like, reforming, emerging after decades of service, to almost a half a century of service to Wall Street, to the military-industrial complex, to now portray him as this like born-again progressive figure because he's raising corporate taxes from 21% to 28% when Trump lowered it from 35%. So he's taking it half of the way back up. And I just read this morning from the New York Times to get their daily newsletter, this kind of incredible portrayal. There's just no context. It's completely detached from that. It's treated as if Biden is raising corporate tax rates. Of course, the fact that he is putting children back in detention centers at the border is basically not discussed again. Or if it is, it's just completely apologized for.
Ain't that the truth? I'm glad someone else sees it. Now, of course, our complaints are a little different. They don't think he's commie enough, but we can both agree that it's just a complete sham the way this myth-making is made of this senile old man, which is basically tantamount to elder abuse. So the progressives aren't happy, we're not happy, we all see through it, and everyone else is pretending like the emperor has clothes and isn't a creepy, hair-sniffing incompetent. But yeah, so they're unhappy. We can agree on that. And I like the way they're going to put a burr under the Democrat saddle if they don't fall apart, because we're going to start to see some cracks here in Commieville.
We're not just we're not just doing this for show. We are actually planning challenges now and logistically beginning to lay that out. I think that the Democrats, I think it's no coincidence that we've seen a reaction from the Democratic Party that is beginning to attempt to attack our efforts to get ballot access. And so that is in Nevada, for example, just a week ago, State Senator Roberta Lang introduced a measure that would double the number of signatures required to get ballot access in Nevada. There's efforts like this happening in about 4 or 5 different states. Nationally, within H.R. 1, the Democrats, who are of course the champions of that, have slipped in measures that would put even more money into politics and empower the DNC and the RNC with, for example, lift the cap that the DNC and the RNC can give to a presidential candidate from $5,000 to $100 million, and other measures to try to centralize power in their national committees and also to try to block independent parties. And so I think it's no coincidence that that's happened. In fact, the top ballot access expert in the country, Richard Winger, has contacted us and he's advised us on ballot access and said that, yes, I believe that you are responsible for initiating this latest spate of voter suppression. And that's really what it is. And that's what I find most incredible and most revealing about the Democratic Party. That at the same time that the Democratic Party has been throwing its hands up in righteous indignation over Republican voter suppression bills in Georgia and Texas, restricting the voting rights of people of color, the poor, they have been engaging in their own voter suppression campaign against us, the same party that claims to believe in enfranchisement for people of color and the poor. And I find that so revealing about the Democratic Party's principles at a core that, in fact, they are no more guided and led by principle when it comes to voter enfranchisement than the Republicans. It's just a pure calculation of what is in the benefit of their party. That's it.
Absolutely. And the Republicans tend to do that to us, though the Democrats do it sometimes. But it's really funny the way all these people are becoming so born again about ballot stuff. But I'm glad someone else is bringing it up, because you got the Republicans screaming about, the way the ballots were, the election was stolen from them. And you have the Democrats screaming about, ballot, suppression and voter suppression, where both of those two parties are constantly screwing third parties and engaging in voter suppression. Now, what I found interesting here, and here's where I saw Nick Branagh's enormous ego come through. He acted as if, like, without context, and of course maybe I'm being uncharitable, but like, oh, and the biggest ballot access expert Richard Winger contacted us to say that we're the cause of this latest bout. Nice of you to mention that Richard Winger's a libertarian and is just really, really concerned about suppression. It would have been nice if you had recognized that, considering, yes, the foremost ballot access expert is helping you out, and he's a libertarian. And I don't know if it's in this broadcast, but later on, one of your people called libertarians evil. And I wrote you guys and got no response saying, is Richard Winger evil? Then why don't you refuse his help? Anyway, yeah, they, I'm sure, did provoke a slate of ballot suppression from the Democrats. Absolutely true. But he acts like, I don't know, like it's them, like they're scaring everybody, without knowing the Libertarians have been provoking this for years. My sweet summer child.
I mean, one of the things I find frightening is that Biden is just ruling by decree. This was tried, by the way, in the dysfunctional Weimar government in the lead up to the Nazis. So Ebert and the Social Democrats, when they had a kind of negative majority in the Reichstag between the communists and the fascists, so they just ruled by decree. But it set a kind of precedent, and it means that if you get a figure like Trump or Pompeo or someone else in the office, just instantly everything is overturned because the legislative system doesn't work. That's a very dangerous way to govern. And so all of these executive orders, which are really a misuse of executive power, everything can be instantly reversed and will be.
Yep, that's all that happens is ping pong. But it's funny that Nick Brana sat there with a straight face while this guy was decrying the use of executive decree. Meanwhile, Nick Brana advocates use executive decree. Same thing, executive order, might as well executive decree, might as well be a freaking monarch. Nick Brana wants Biden to use executive order to just write into law Medicare for all. Hypocrite.
So do you guys support, I know you guys are trying to start a new progressive party. Does that mean like maybe, do you guys also support like down ballot candidates like Democrats, or you guys are strictly third party?
Strictly third party, independent and third party. That's the way we want to go, because we think that that's what it takes to actually build a new party. And you asked about down ballot. We are a bottom-up oriented party building organization. So we feel that in order to be viable, in order to create a viable party, and that is really critical because many parties, there aren't that many of them, but those that exist, third parties that is are not viable, or they're not perceived to be viable, and we want to help create one that is. And the way to do that is to win at lower levels first, where it is easier to win, build a base, and then springboard to the next level, rather than aiming too high, losing big, and discrediting yourself, as various third parties do today.
Okay.
And both Jonathan and I were on their board of directors, and we were heavily involved in building that group. And
okay, I want to stop here because I didn't introduce this clip sufficiently. These are dissidents. These are outcasts from the People's Party that are now going on other shows and basically spilling the tea. But I think they got something really, really wrong-headed here, where one of their criticisms of the People's Party is that they're aiming too high, and you have to run down ballot first or you destroy your credibility. And it seems like there probably was a shot at the Libertarian Party there. But the fact is, in some states, you cannot get and keep ballot access without running top-of-the-ticket candidates, at least in the statewide races. So it isn't as simple as simply winning at the local level. and working up. It doesn't work that way. Sounds nice on paper.
And we realized that that was not going to be sustainable. It really didn't stand for what we wanted to, where we wanted to go. Then we decided we'd start our own movement.
Okay, so these people were part, just gotta bake this in a little here, were part of the People's Party and left for what they're going to get into the reasons. And they now started the progressive whatever commie, whatever party. But we'll get to hear their complaints. And I was on, I can never pronounce his name. It's in the thing. You'll see it, and I'll put a link in the show notes. I was on his show too, where we talked about this very, very eager, fantastic activist that's interviewing these folks.
As Lynette said, I was part of the leadership of that group and eventually quit for various reasons, which we can talk about. And we had a little break there where we were trying to figure out what to do, maybe a year, what are we going to do next? And then we decided to try to create the PPOF to keep pursuing the same mission, but in a way that we thought would be more effective.
Okay, so yeah, he just, talked about how they broke away for the PPO. It's all communism. I'm not even going to bother to learn all these acronyms. It's all communism. So, trouble in paradise. The snake has entered the garden.
What's up with their budget? It doesn't seem to be very public. It's a little bit strange, you know anything about that? And also, I think that they don't have any finance board. Like some of the different, council city, what do they call them again? Council chairs or whatever. They want me to do all the dirty work, right? They want me to ask all the hard questions. So, okay. They don't want to reveal themselves. Okay. So they said, oh, look, the finance board is missing. Do you know anything about that?
We haven't been privy to the details of the inner workings of the MPP since we're not part of the organization anymore. We can only sort of infer how they're operating based on the way they operated in Draft Bernie. And that inference is that Nick Brana is dominating the organization and keeping a lot of information private.
Yeah, there's definitely this kind of like secretive kind of like clannish behavior from the leadership, which is actually pretty disturbing. Yeah, which I've actually had quite a difficult time in dealing with that.
Okay, I can't open this. This is the white eyeshadow I'm going to use. Let me see here. What am I doing wrong? Okay, what am I? This is pretty bad when I can't even open the eyeshadow. Okay, that's the hinge, so this should be the front. And why won't it open? This is crazy. What am I doing? Oh, here it goes. I don't know. I have the dumb. Yeah, so financial issues. You don't say. The communists aren't that financially responsible and they're hiding their finances? Well, I don't know how accurate that is. These could be just people with sour grapes, but this is something that's out there. Again, I don't know their inner workings, but I know this isn't isolated just to these two people who have complaints, but they could just be sour grapes. I don't know if it's true. Just putting it out there that these people are alleging that. Maybe someone else who's been with the movement for a People's Party can let us know.
Yeah. So, what are some of the? Why do you guys? And you guys have great qualifications. I would try to keep talent like yourselves on board. What caused the rift?
Well,
You're asking. Go ahead, Lynette.
we both came at it from a little bit different direction, but pretty much the same reason. But what did it for me is that we weren't as a group, we weren't working as a democratic group, and we weren't moving forward. I thought we should be moving towards forming a party and doing some of the actions and activities that would push us towards that end, and it just didn't feel like we were going in that direction. And I also felt like it was just totally we had a lot of people on the board, but Nick made all the decisions. It was just kind of everything was done. Nick was in charge, and there was no other input, no other leadership. It was frustrating because like you said, I think we had a lot of qualifications that could have really been utilized and been satisfying to move forward. But we weren't our expertise or our work wasn't really respected.
It does seem like a little bit of sour grapes, I have to say, just in the tone. But, maybe it's justified. But in my last video, or the video before that, I had played some clips during one of the calls itself in which members were expressing dissatisfaction with the top-down heavy-handedness while they claim to be very, very democratic. So that rings true. We were so qualified and we weren't used right, I don't know. That in a way kind of had an element of like a little bit of bitchiness to it. That could be sour grapes, I don't know. But the issue with, and I'm just gonna put a whole wash of white over my eyes. The issue with it not being very democratic, though, that definitely has the ring of truth to it.
In that way.
What about you, Jonathan?
Well, I should say that we were forced, like everybody else, to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. So even though I would like to, I cannot share with you and everybody else the details of what happened.
That's an ongoing problem, and there's, it's just the role of NDAs has expanded so greatly, right, within these campaigns and stuff. It's really problematic and troubling. And, it's also really hurts people like the youngsters like us, right? Not that I'm that young, but people that are coming up in the game, they want to learn how to be an activist, and all these doors are closed because of these NDAs. It really takes the power away from the grassroots and puts into the hands of these consultants and party leaders. Very troubling. Yeah.
That's true. And, if an organization is going to be democratic, it should be transparent.
Absolutely. And that's why I am such a fiend for transparency on all of the boards that I'm on, because it is so easy to fall into that trap. But they claim they're so transparent, and yet they're not. And that is a complaint I've heard all over the place. It's one I believe, because I've even heard it from people who are still in the party and still wanting to make it work, not just defectors. If you're wondering how I got this white so bright, here's a tip. I'm sure you guys, the ladies, know this, but maybe not. I only learned this later in life. If you dab your brush in water, it then packs it on really nice and bright.
And so if you're having trouble getting information about what the MPP is doing now, that suggests that it is not as transparent as it should be and not as democratic as it should be. On top of that, if you look at the MPP, and this was also true of Draft Bernie, a lot of the attention, media attention, focuses on Nick Brana. He's the main spokesperson. He's the one making the quotes. There are some other people around the edges, but a huge amount of the focus is on him. And that, I think, does not promote a cooperative type organization that makes good decisions when, the voice of the organization is one person. So that's more consistent, sorry to say, with a cult, actually, when you have a leader like that who gets all the focus, and on top of that is making wild and grandiose statements about what the organization can accomplish. And in this case, that's a problem that I have with the MPP, is that it is claiming that within 2 to 4 years, it's going to elect members of Congress and it's going to win the presidency and it's going to become the biggest party in the United States, which is really absurd.
Yes, I had been saying that from the beginning, that they haven't been exactly truthful in their claims, and it has been very, very grandiose. And I never, there was something that really bothered me, and he's right. It's very, very culty. And there is this focus on Nick Brana that he really feeds off of. Thank God the LP didn't really fall into that. The LP really, I don't want to say distance itself, because that's not the right word, but it became its own independent entity away from David Nolan. And it did a lot of things David Nolan ended up not liking very early on. It didn't become a cult of personality around David Nolan.
Something came to mind when you were telling about that. We were trying to form a Colorado Progressive Party here in Colorado, and this was probably a couple of years ago now. We've been working on that. And there were some MPP folks that wanted to join with us, and we were like, "Yeah, let's do this. Let's go together, and we'll wait till the convention, and we'll pick our own name. We don't have to have a name right now." And they were like, "No, it has to be the Nick Brana Party, and it has to be MPP, and that's Nick has to be in charge, and it's only going to go. This is the way it's going to be, or it's not going to be. We're not going to be working with
Who
you." And
said
I was like,
that?
"Really?"
Who do you remember the name of who said that to you?
I don't have names, but
Okay.
but because I honestly don't even remember the names, but they were MPP folks, and that's the only way that, and I knew that, I knew that because I had worked with Nick, and I just thought it's so unfortunate that he puts those limitations on it because it keeps us from working together.
Yep. That also has the ring of truth to it. And I didn't. One of the untruthful, grandiose claims is that we're building a new major party. You can't just build a new major party. You start off as a minor party, or depending upon the laws in the state, you can't just declare yourself and think that you're going to do this when no one else has. I mean, it is just such delusions of grandeur, and it could be in some way taken as just hyping the troops. But the insiders coming out saying that they even felt it was over the top and just not realistic is kind of solidifying my particular views. Now, it's not going to stay all white like this. I know I look a little like White Walker right now. Don't worry, okay?
I don't know the exact details of that, but I think, yes, you're right. He has tried to elevate. I think he was an intern there. He might have been a paid staffer for a while, but no, he didn't have any status with the Bernie campaign.
I think I took that clip out of order, but basically what was being asked was, what was Nick's involvement with the Bernie campaign? And these disgruntled, again, might not be true, former MPPers are saying that he has basically padded his resume, that he didn't have the level of involvement. I'm trying to find a good brush here. This is actually lipstick, but I want to try to use it as blush. I saw this trick and I figured I'd try it because I wanted trying to do something dramatic here. So that might have been taken a little out of order.
Let me just be clear about what you're asking us. What should they look out for in terms of
Within themselves and within the organization, right? Like warning signs that things are not as they seem.
Well, if they're being pressured quickly to sign an NDA is one of them. We've talked about that already.
Yeah.
If it seems like the plans and projects of the group come from the top down, and you don't know who formulated them, and people at the local and state level don't really have any role in discussing and debating them,
yeah,
that's a problem. Why should it be that the executive board or the steering committee, whatever you want to call it, of the MPP, possibly, directly from Nick Brana down, tells people what to do? That's a serious warning sign. So if there isn't a chance for ordinary MPP members to not just join a call and listen to what Nick or other MPP leaders and guests are saying, but actually participate in a discussion and have some kind of a say in what projects are pursued, that's a serious problem. And if there aren't more people who are speaking on behalf of the organization in press releases and in the media, that's a warning sign too. Not only that, if it sounds like what is being promised in terms of strategy and achievements in the next 2 to 4 years sounds like really over the top and unbelievable, even though you would like to believe it, then that's a serious warning sign too. If there isn't a real plan for gaining power, if you say that you're going to run people for Congress, but you haven't explained how are these people going to win, where are you going to get people who have the capacity to overcome the huge obstacles to running a viable congressional campaign, if you can't explain how you're going to do what you say you're going to do, that's a warning sign.
Okay, so what was being asked is, for young activists or inexperienced politicos, what are the warning signs that you might be joining a cult rather than a political party? And that's what that was answering. And actually, This lighting in here is not so good. Let me see if I can have it not quite so bright on my face. Does that help? A little bit. Let me see. Okay, that seems a little better. That you guys can kind of see it. I don't know. You'll see it at the end. I'm sorry, I don't have the greatest lighting here for filming in my... And you wonder why I look to the side here a lot. This is where my monitor is, and over here is where the comments are. And speaking of comments, this is supposed to be interactive. So please, 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 if you have anything to say, put it into comments. You know, I don't go by a strict script or anything. I'm seeing if I put this light here, if that helps. Now, we're trying to get a lot of highlights here because, again, this is supposed to be a somewhat dramatic look, so I'm really doing it up on the highlights. So that's what I'm working on now.
The Vermont Progressive Party started out with people winning in Burlington and then winning state legislative races, and now they've got someone who's the lieutenant governor who's a viable candidate for governor. The Green Party has, won some local races in certain places, and here and there they've actually gone from winning city council races to winning mayor. Of course, I think they're too bottom up. They still run presidential, congressional candidates for state legislature before they actually have created a base and developed strong candidates with a good reputation who are capable of doing well in those races. So they've got some bottom-up success, but they're also sabotaging themselves with those super long shot races that make them look like they're not serious. But at lower levels, they have demonstrated that it is possible to win there and even start to build up to the next level.
He is ignorant of the ballot access realities. The reason the Green Party does that is the same reason we have to do that, even if we didn't want to, is that's the way ballot access works. You have to, in some states, get a certain percentage in those higher races. And also, in a lot of states, you can't always control who runs on your ballot line. Now, in a lot, you can. It requires a nomination by the party, but in some states, you can't. And if someone wants to run and they're a party member, this isn't in Colorado, so I'm not terribly knowledgeable on this, but I know, like, in Florida with the whole Augustus Invictus thing, they don't want Mr. Nazi eugenics goat blood drinker. You can't actually drink a goat. That would be actual accomplishment there. So this guy's overly simplifying things, and the Green Party knows a thing or two about what they need to do.
Welcome everybody to Frank Analysis. I am your host, Franco. So following the fallout between MPP and Our Revolution LA, many people who are in the leadership position of Movement for a People's Party or who support Movement for a People's Party were claiming that many of the ex-volunteers for Movement for a People's Party were infiltrators who were spreading smears about Movement for a People's Party. So I'm here to discuss with former volunteers of Movement for a People's Party about their experiences working for the People's Party and what their actual intentions were. So I'm joined here right now with Joe Charest. So Joe, how are you doing today?
Okay, so more defectors. Let's hear what they have to say. Putting on the heavy eyeliner.
You want to introduce yourself to everybody real quick?
I'm doing good. We finally have sunshine here in Kansas.
Good to hear. So, Joe, how long have you been a volunteer for Movement for a People's Party, and what was your role?
I was a volunteer for the People's Party from September to February, and I was the leader of the People with Disabilities Political Outreach Circle.
And so what motivated you initially to want to join the Movement for a People's Party? Why did you want to volunteer for them?
Because I have a son that's disabled. He has cerebral palsy, and I feel like as an advocate for him, I needed to have another place at the table somewhere to advocate for people with disabilities. And so I thought that People's Party was going to be a viable viable avenue.
Yeah.
But I was wrong.
So what kind of policies were they promising that was that attracted you to want to help them out?
Well, I did see that they had a plank for disability rights on their platform, and there was language that's on there now that was not on there until I came along, which spoke to the sub-minimum wage that is still legal for disabled people to be paid in 49 states in the union, and also home and community-based supports. Like I said before I came on, those two things were not part of their platform. So they pretty much jacked my ideas without giving me any credit for adding that.
Okay, that is very sour grapes. When you join a political party and you aren't the first lady to come up with disability rights, lady, it isn't like your name is put on the platform plank. Come on. You know, maybe you needed a little bit more atta girl within the party, but that just rubbed me the wrong way. So it sounded like she wasn't, her ass wasn't kissed enough. I don't know. I don't know. That just kind of, did it rub you guys the wrong way? Just cleaning up there a little bit. It's hard to do even the semblance of a wing when you have hooded eyes.
Initially, things were going good. I was voted to be the leader of the disability circle, and I grew my circle to 41 members, and I very quickly organized it. And I was even being praised by Tiffany Anning, the political outreach coordinator, for very quickly organizing and the group and my efforts and stuff. But what really started me questioning was when we were in a political working group meeting and we were told not to focus on policy, but focus on outreach only. And I'm like, okay, but how can you focus on just outreach without discussing policy? People want to know what they're getting into or why they should be part of the movement. So I pushed back on that. And then there's just other things like decisions not being not being allowed to have decision making agency and other things.
Okay, she's just not particularly well spoken either, but I just get a serious troublemaker vibe. That's just me. And like, perhaps even, hey there, I don't have my glasses on. A Gaines. Yeah, it sounded like she was just a bit butthurt that they didn't want to do her strategy. I don't know, but I'm willing to listen here.
Oh yeah, there was over 200 of us that signed a petition asking for changes. I was one of those people that signed the petition, and I was one of the people that presented the petition to the National Coordinating Circle and the General Coordinating Circle. And and this is one thing that they're going to deny, that they had no clue what they were walking into, but they had the petition the night before and looked it over for 3 hours. So they didn't come in at the meeting with fresh eyes like we had hoped that they would have.
Okay, she speaks so slowly that sometimes I don't know when she's done. I see that Brian mentions he recalls Nina Turner being involved. They've had a lot of big names involved, and they have like a celebrity panel, like Susan Sarandon's on it, and that also has been the cause of friction. But they have had some big names And, their causes are the typical, rich white savior type causes. So, yeah, let's continue. Right now I'm doing a little bit of just smudging out.
So you were removed from the volunteer Slack, also the state Slack, the base camp, and then they blocked you on Twitter. Their IT guy, Thomas Royko, Nick Brana, and Annalise Garcia, they also blocked you on Twitter. And here's a message that they gave the people for why MPP removed you from these platforms. So I'm going to show this real quick to everybody. So this is from Tiffany Anning of Massachusetts. So she said, she tagged the channel. She said, "We regret to inform you that we have had to revoke Joe Charest's invitation to volunteer for Movement for a People's Party as of today. The CC has been provided with multiple instances of Ms. Charest spreading false information regarding our movement on Twitter. Last night, she, along with a number of former volunteers, launched a full-on assault on social media. We could not, in good conscience, let her continue to do damage to the movement we are building. Screenshots will be shared with the community later this afternoon." So what false information are they saying, are they talking about exactly that you were spreading on Twitter?
I was pushing back against the petition response by Annalise Garcia, and they didn't like that. So I'm sure that Thomas took things back to the Slack and to National Coordinator Circle and the Coordinator Circle, and probably most likely said that I was being a problem on social media and to get rid of me. And later that night, I went to go check on Slack for something, and I had my access revoked. I didn't even get a letter or an email saying, "We're sorry, your access has been revoked from MPP." So it was just everything gone.
So they didn't give you an email or anything about what the reason why? They just put that, they just let everybody else know?
Yep.
And
they shared a... Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead and finish your thoughts.
And then they shared a screenshot taken way out of context with Susan Sarandon and everybody else on the advisory council, and didn't give me a chance, or the other person a chance that was on this screenshot, to explain our conversation.
Okay. So you're talking about the screenshot that you sent me? The one where you were discussing with Harley?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna pull that up real quick for everybody to see. Okay, so I'm back here with all right, so here's a screenshot. So this is your tweet that you sent. You said, "Depending on what happens with Washington Days here in Kansas, I may have a plausible out with Movement for a People's Party. Ryan announcing publicly he has stepped back from Movement for a People's Party is the best thing to happen to us folks." And then Harley Morency, she wrote, "Now we need to target Susan Sarandon and Cornel West." And then you responded and said, "Those two will be huge. There is this tweet that is for sure making me 100% not signing on NDA." And then the tweet that you're talking about, that you quoted, was a response to Proud Socialist, which is Ryan Knight. And it said, it was by Brendan Becker. And it says, "I had to back away from Movement for a People's Party after seeing the typical, quote, 'any software engineering you do is our exclusive property' line in the contract/NDA they expect people to sign." So what exactly was your intention in this tweet, and what did Harley mean when she said, quote, "target Susan Sarandon and Cornel West"?
We wanted to talk to Susan Sarandon and Cornell West and give them our side of the story and let them know what MPP was doing since they were on the and are still on the advisory council. That's all we wanted to do. And we didn't get that chance.
Right, and right
And
now,
so far the only
sorry, go ahead and finish your thoughts.
Go ahead. Sorry, technology, it doesn't allow you the
Yeah.
same kind of transitioning that you get in real life.
Yeah.
You know, there are a few people on the advisory council that did listen to us. You know, I did talk to Ryan Knight, and he listened to me. He listened to everything I had to say, and he took everything to heart, and I appreciate that. And, you know, I'm still willing to talk to anybody else that's on the advisory council and give them my experiences. And I meant no ill intent. I wasn't trying to give anybody death threats or anything like that.
Okay, liar. I'm sorry. That's just my impression. Her explanation, she was a troublemaker and they got rid of her. This one I seem to think is on her, saying they wanted, there's a lawnmower outside, isn't that wonderful? I don't know if you can hear it on the tape, but saying they wanted to target Cornell West and Susan Sarandon is to foment dissent. And yeah, when you're internally trying to be destructive kind of for your own glory, yeah, I don't know. You know, it's interesting that there's troublemakers in everyone. I just don't believe her. And of course, that's just my gut. I could be completely wrong here. But that explanation didn't pass the sniff test of the targeting language. Though it was shitty, they didn't give her an email explanation if that's true. You know, and that happens a lot in organizations, so I tend to believe her on that. Okay, I am going to now just fill in to blend in these lashes. And Drywall asks if mascara is still made of guano. I don't know. I don't. If you notice, I didn't use any mascara in this look. It's false lashes and just eyeliner. I tend not to use mascara. Usually put on falsies. So I never knew it used to be made of guano. So.
Well, okay, we were originally promised a horizontal self-organizing structure, and it quickly, over the last few months, has devolved into a top-down structure. So, you know, that's something that we all kept pushing back on. And we weren't given really concrete organizing documents either. Again, I had no documentation on how I was supposed to form my circle when I agreed to be the leader, or when I was voted to be the leader, I should say. I'm sorry. And I had to do everything from scratch.
Okay, well, that's kind of typical with the new party. But her complaints of top down, that's certainly echoed by other people. But it seems to me that she's just a little bitter that she wasn't the top.
And she's trying to say that you have bad intentions because of what was said there?
Yes.
Right. And then, but your
Which is completely false.
But your actual intentions is that you want people like Cornell West and Susan Sarandon to know about some of the dysfunctionalities and things that are making the volunteers upset with the way that MPP is structured?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. You want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
The whole intention. Well, I mean, they need to know that volunteers have asked for direction, and we haven't gotten the direction that we requested. We've also asked for financial transparency. That has not been provided to us. We feel like we get talked down to, or I should say when I was in I felt like I was starting to get talked down to quite a bit. Laura Morris had questioned my commitment to People's Party. And I'm like, if I wasn't completely committed to this organization the way I had been, I wouldn't have had all of the meetings that I did for our circle. I wouldn't have volunteered to be in the political outreach coalition building working group. And I also wouldn't have volunteered to be in the political outreach onboarding volunteer group. In addition to everything else I have going on outside of People's Party. So I don't know how they could have questioned my commitment to what I was doing any more than what I was doing. Honestly.
So who was talking down to people like you?
Laura Morris talks down to people. Tiffany actually talks down to people. Rod Branna talks down to people.
Is
Thomas
that
Roico
is
talks down to people. Rod is Nick's dad.
okay? Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. So,
I mean, I don't have access to People's Party Twitter or Thomas's Twitter anymore. But before I was blocked, I was privy to a screenshot where Rod was saying that I was acting with bad faith, or that I was showing ill intent or something.
Okay, well, she did not explain it all, though. Still, the targeting Susan Sarandon and Cornel West, it wasn't in context, cannot mean just to let them know what was going on because they were gloating. That would be huge. What do you mean it'd be huge? It'd be huge to get them on your side to sow dissent.
do you think that the People's Party can be saved, or do you think that is it possible to see any improvements, or do you think that people should abandon the People's Party?
For now, they need to abandon it. It's a dumpster fire. And People's Party needs to do a lot of self-examination and see exactly where their identity is and what they're about. And they need to learn how to treat people that are trying to help them a lot better before I would recommend anybody helping out with People's Party.
Right. And then one thing I want people to keep in mind when they listen to other channels who are promoting MPP is look at who they're mainly bringing on. Like, are they only bringing on like people who are famous on YouTube or like around social media? It's going to be a very biased perspective if they're bringing on people who are in positions of leadership, right? We have to make things fair, we have to also talk to the volunteers. And then after discussing with the volunteers, challenge the leadership with the information that you gathered with the volunteers. Because you want to be fighting for the people. So you want to hear out what the volunteers say.
On this April 1st, 2021. And so there is something that I wanted to share with all of you on the top of the call. It's something that's unfolding right now. And that really reveals why we're doing this work as the People's Party. And so obviously the Republicans have been engaging recently in a horrific, completely undemocratic spate of attacks on voting rights, voter suppression laws in Georgia, in many other states across the South, Texas, most recently. And so they're trying to block people of color from voting, Democrats from voting, and so it's just clearly in their partisan interest. There's no principle involved there, except for just wanting to put their party into power. That's exactly the kind of corruption that, of course, we oppose as the People's Party. But, and the Democrats have been on this righteous crusade against the Republicans for doing that. And we agree with them. That's horrible. In fact, we go further. We believe that Election day should be a holiday. We should have automatic voter registration. We should have a multi-party system with ranked choice voting, proportional representation, an actual healthy democracy, you know, like most wealthy countries in the world do. You know, the absence of Medicare for all in the United States is not the only thing that sets the US apart from other countries. It's also the fact that this two-party duopoly is unique. This is not the norm around the world, despite what the corporate media would have you believe. Well, guess what? The establishment parties, including the Democrats, want you to only ever have those two parties to vote from and to choose from. And so the Democrats, who've been on that righteous crusade against the Republicans for passing these voter suppression bills, they are also engaging in voter suppression against us. They're attacking the People's Party nationally and in a number of states now.
I don't really like the payoff on this black lipstick. It's not very pigmented. I'd like to try a different one. But, you know, we agree with a lot there. We should have proportional representation and ranked choice voting. He's just repeating, though, the Democrat talking points on voter suppression. I still don't see that. I'm not a fan of the Republicans, but I do not see voter suppression there. And I did watch the documentary that was recommended to me last time I brought this up, and I didn't see anything there either. It was a lot of just very grandiose assertions without a lot of proof.
The Democrats, they don't really care about voter suppression. They don't, it's not a principle of theirs that we have greater voter accessibility, that people of color, poor people, marginalized communities be able to vote. They don't give a damn about that when it actually conflicts with who would vote for them. So that's not a principle whatsoever of theirs. It just is a convenient excuse, a convenient reason that they cite to be able to oppose Republican efforts to restrict the vote. It doesn't emerge from a principle whatsoever, because that principle would actually lead you to do what most of the rest of the world does and provide a multi-party system in this country that can't be bought off as easily as Wall Street buys the Democrats and the Republicans, which is also why we at the People's Party take no corporate money whatsoever and report all our financial contributions on our website, on our transparency page. So.
Okay, oh, my lip thing's still wet. The people who've left have disputed their financial transparency. And I've heard that, you know, so I don't know what's the truth here. But I do agree with him that the parties are paid off, though I don't think getting money is dirty. I actually just don't think corporations are libertarian at all, so I'm not even getting into that. But he's true. If the Democrats really were just so worried about adequate representation, no, they only care about adequate representation when you want them to represent you. Not when you want somebody else, such as the Libertarian or these commies or whatever might be going on. They only care about it when it's convenient for them. That is absolutely true. They do not give a flying fuck about voter suppression.
See, what the Democrats are going to say is like, oh, we have great ballot access, same day voter registration, and all of this stuff, right? But there are no third parties other than right-wing parties. And those, of course, got grandfathered in on this new bill. You know, they got grandfathered, all, you know, the Libertarians and the American Independents and all that. They all got grandfathered, even though they couldn't, there's no way, except for maybe the Libertarians, are going to meet the standards that they would force on the People's Party.
I don't remember what state she was talking about us being grandfathered in on. That does not ring a bell. But we are not a right-wing party. So you wonder why I really facetiously call them commies. They're not communists, literally, but they are very socialistic. You know, it's more. I'm being facetious because of that kind of crap. We're not right-wing darling. Okay?
So with that, I want to hand it back over to you, Phil. And thank you to everyone who makes a contribution. That's really what keeps us going, particularly because we don't take any corporate money. And so we are as strong as you make us. And recurring contributions, I want to give a special shout out to everyone who checks Make It Monthly, because those are really the donations that we can very much count on the most. They're donations that we can project ahead, and they help us plan. And we want to be able to support all the candidates, support the actions that we're doing. And so your contributions make it possible, because we only take funds from you. And we publish everything that we spend and everything that we raise on our website, on our transparency page, for anyone who wants to see that too.
I'm going to need to go look that up. I should have probably done my due diligence. But I find it, I don't know. Someone is telling a porky here, because it probably is pretty easily disproven. Even either those former volunteers who say there is no financial transparency, or Nick Branna here, who you notice does all the big talking. It's pretty obvious it is a cult of personality around him, but I'm not too sure who's telling the truth here.
Well, thanks for the introduction, and thank you everyone for being with us. This is a special call because we have just opened up nominations to be in the first generation of our People's Party candidates. And so this is something that we've been building up to for 4 years. And it's something that I'm personally very excited to be doing.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, so they're getting ready to run their candidates. And that's really what I'm very, very interested in. I need to get my brush, and it's back here. I don't want to knock something. Oh, this is like, the game of, do you remember the game Operation, where you have to get out the little organs without touching the sides? Man, that game was nerve-wracking as a child if you've never played it. So let's continue.
I am pleased to announce that Missouri has formed the People's Party. We have, as of last Sunday, we organized a state provisional central committee. That committee will guide us through the petitioning process and lead us into being a full-fledged political party in the state of Missouri. So super excited about that. It's a lot of hard work, and I really appreciate the work that Michelle has done to facilitate that. And Mike McCorkle was very instrumental in giving us kind of a template and guiding us through some of the processes that we needed to take up to get to this point. So our goal right now is to work on our petition. The first thing we had to do is form that party central committee provisional, and that those members will guide us through the petitioning process, which we hope to start very soon. We've talked about doing it on August 10th, which is the 200th anniversary of the state of Missouri, and we thought that that would be a good auspicious day to start up, this. But we can have like a soft launch. That would be on the steps of the Capitol in Jefferson City, and but we're working on it. And I want to call out to anybody on this call that's from Missouri to join us, give us a helping hand in this process, because what I see happening here, there's there's no choice but to form a party that is free of corporations and billionaires, and we have to do it now, because if we don't do anything about climate change. I watched some of Sanders' Senate hearing today, and it's very dire what's going on. And even, could you believe it, Lindsey Graham is kind of coming over to it. But anyway, we don't have time to dilly around. This is fast track. We're forming a political party in Missouri, the other states. We're going to run candidates, and we need your help.
Is it just me, or they have some of the most boring speakers in the entire world? They're just not very eloquent. I'd be interested in anyone from Missouri who knows the Libertarian Party, who would know what's going on with the People's Party. So They're trucking along in getting their parties formed. And so far, I'm really happy with this look. It's quite dramatic, though, isn't it?
So join, if you want to sign our petition before we, you can use our link, and we'll put it in the chat. Hope Michelle can do that. That will allow people to sign up to sign the petition when we have it ready. So also want to talk about some of the other things that the members in Missouri have been doing, because we have a huge problem with our state legislature. We have a trifecta. Missouri's Republican, House, Senate, and Governor. And these are not your suburbanite Republicans. These are, dyed in the wool, libertarian, Koch brothers funded and trained evil people. By what they do, they're trying to take away ballot access rights for people. They want.
I gotta stop right there. Fuck you. Fuck you with a barbed dildo up the ass. Libertarians are not trying to take away your ballot access. We have the same problems you do, and we are not funded by the Koch brothers. Though if the Koch brothers want to send us a bunch of money, well, I'll take it. But stop spreading falsehoods. How am I supposed to take anything else you say seriously? And if we're evil, then you better turn down the help from evil Richard Winger, that evil libertarian.
To change the minimum wage increase that voters approved through initiative. They want to roll that back. They refuse to fund Medicaid expansion, which the voters through initiative passed. And they're attacking the initiative and referendum process. And I was just on a call before this one with a coalition that a number of our members are part of, Show Me Integrity. And we're having a, let me get the page here. We're calling for a ballot initiative advocacy day and rally in Jefferson City on April 28th. And we'll be rallying and then going into the legislature and talking to our representatives.
Okay, and thank you very much, Donna, for saying cool look and great live topic. Thank you. Yeah, woo, that guy got me angry, got me a little hot and bothered, man. Whew, and this is why I say the commie thing, to let off a little steam. Because on one hand, they'll try to be all friendly and like, we need all these voices, but not the evil libertarians, right? Really? Okay.
Some of the things they're trying to do, and we have a 114-year-old tradition of initiative in Missouri. They're going to require a supermajority to pass a ballot initiative instead of the simple majority we have now. They're going to shorten the period of time to gather signatures. They're going to increase the requirements for signatures by hundreds of thousands. And each measure, each of these measures would render the initiative process nearly impossible. And they're doing this because they don't think that people in Missouri have enough sense to, come up with something and instead of the legislature. So it's a really attack on working people and Black people. This is a racist-based, white supremacist process going on in our state legislatures. That's why we need a Missouri People's Party. We're going to run some candidates and go down there and clean that place up. So I get all worked up about this. So.
Yeah, you get so worked up that you're lying. And I bet you are lily white, Steve. Why don't you step aside for a minority person to have their voice if you're so concerned about racism and white supremacy? Lord have frickin' mercy. Brian asked, do you think their urgency of the climate crisis and similar issues will be a viable marketing strategy for them? Yep, because panic porn sells. We should know that by now. I definitely think it will be. That dude was a piece of work.
Thank you, Aaron. And we're so grateful to have you coordinating the People with Disabilities for People's Party circle. And we always strive to do our best to ensure that MPP is a place that is open and accessible. And we've enabled transcripts on our calls. You can find that on the links to all the transcripts to our calls on our YouTube videos as well. And we will always strive to do the best that we can. It's very important for us. Thank you.
Well, I guess they have a new disability circle leader now. I don't remember the gal's name from earlier, but she won't be too happy to hear that.
Aaron. And now I'm very happy to turn it over to Zaina Day, who is going to give us a really big update for the evening about our candidate nominations process, which went live just yesterday. And we've opened up candidate nominations for anyone who wants to nominate either themselves or a community member. All of you should have that in your inbox now. Email went out today, shortly before the call, with the links to the nominations page on our website under the organizing tab. And so if you know someone, if you want to nominate yourself, if you're ready, Zaina's going to tell us a bit more about the kinds of candidates we're looking for, how the process is going to work, and everything. This is such a huge step for the People's Party, and I just think that everybody should share in the excitement of that, because we are going to shake up the status quo. Is that they are afraid of us already. They are already trying to increase ballot access rules, targeting us, as we shared on the last call. Richard Winger, the top ballot access expert in the country, believes that we are responsible for the new Democratic voter suppression efforts that they are waging. And so they know that this is not theoretical, this is not abstract. We are going to pick corporate Democrats and Republicans, and we're going to unseat them. And we're going to send People's Party candidates and elected officials to Congress, perhaps to the Senate, to state and local offices, and that they are going to show what a completely different party that doesn't take corporate money can look like. And that's extremely exciting, because that's what the party's all about. So Zaina, handing it over to you now to tell us a whole heck of a lot more about it.
Okay. And I'm slowly I'm so anal, I have to put things away after I'm done using them. So if you're wondering what I'm doing here in the background, that's what I'm doing. But yeah, so they're going to start their candidate nomination process. But why are you accepting help from the white devil himself, Richard Winger?
What do you think about the possibility of us maybe endorsing a candidate for this cycle? There's still 45 days out, and we can have a big voice in the shape of politics for this cycle right now. What do you think?
Sure.
Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, I think an endorsement's...
Damn, bro.
Endorsement's a good thing.
Let's see who shows up. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, who and how do we make that happen?
Can you ask for a vote on the Slack? I'm sorry to do it. I don't want you to get booted, man. I'm so scared. I'm so scared, man. Oh my God. You, Larry, are you going to do it?
If they boot me,
yeah?
They boot me.
You're a Tulsi guy, damn it. That's right. That's right. He's a Tulsi guy. He don't care. That's all you got to do is ask. Just ask, okay? Yeah. I hope you survive. Food. I'm sorry, Larry. I'm sorry. I love MVP too, man.
No.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials, because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions.
So yeah, those guys are plotting some kind of internal strife and trouble, aren't they? That was funny. Oh, okay. This is the last thing I have for you guys. That was the last clip, but this is a ballot access thing that I wanted to share. So one sec, I need to pull it over to where I can see it. This is from an email from them. And I don't know if I can make it big enough for me to see. I think I'm getting there. Okay, here we go. So it says they're getting ready to open up nominations for candidates, and the Democrats are getting scared. They're scrambling to pass voter suppression laws. So there's a Nevada Democratic Party chair who is throwing up roadblocks. They are definitely scared of what the People's Party can drag away. They think it's going to be somewhat like what the Libertarians allegedly do to the Republicans, so that is false. We pull almost equally. But again, here they go again, claiming it's all about people of color. It's about all people. Okay, so yeah, so that was it. Just they're going through the ballot censorship blues the way we have. So, and that, I do commiserate with them when it comes to that sort of thing. And let me pull this back over so I can see, any comments. Yeah, Donna says these are really difficult to watch. They are. They're like really dry, but packed with information if you're willing to sit through them. So now I'm caught up. I've got a couple more hours of things to go through and get out clips for you guys. I suffer for you. But that's going to be it for tonight. So with my closing message, yeah. So if you like the work that I do and you can afford it, remember, I am jobless as of Friday because quite literally, I was just ready to off myself because I was so miserable at my job. I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't. It was so miserable. So I quit without having yet something else. I have been diligently applying, but not so far, not very many leads. Maybe they've seen my Twitter account. But if you can support this work, I would be eternally grateful. Up at the top of the screen here, patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. I'd like to thank my current patrons. And as you can see, I'm tickled pink to have some names on there. I'm tickled pink to have everybody, okay? But I'm not going to lie. Like, I was like, holy crap, Tom Woods. I mean, to me, wow. So, but thank you, everyone on here. And to those of you who can't, if you can just share and promote, it helps me work up the YouTube algorithm, which I probably never get monetized because of my mouth, but, And here, this is what I am doing for patrons only. We are going through Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, 1972. I think we're up to May, and it's quite an interesting read with a lot of 1970s ambiance in it. But that is it for this. Remember to check back in about an hour where I'm going to open that mystery package I got, okay? Because I know what one of the things is, but I don't know what's in the rest of the package. And judging by the one item I do know, it could be quite spicy. All right, have a good night, y'all.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business.